Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. If you guys already know me, I'm Jay from Learn to Scrap. I teach boxing tutorials to beginners and breakdowns, combinations, all sorts of things. Today what we're going to be covering is Angelo Dundee. Angelo Dundee is one of the greatest coaches to have ever blessed the boxing ring. If you guys don't already know who Angelo Dundee is, I suggest you look him up. Some of his most famous fighters are fighters such as Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, George Foreman, just to name a few. One of the greatest boxing coaches of all time. I just thought that it's important to look back at who these people are, who their names were, and why they produced such amazing talent. What was it about their philosophy? What was it about their teachings that really produced some of the greatest fighters to have ever lived? I'm gonna review one of the videos, one of the few remaining videos where he actually goes into detail about how he trains his fighters, and we're gonna watch it together and just break it down. I'm gonna link it down below so you guys can watch the full thing if you guys really want to. We're gonna go over it together and just follow along.
Shadow boxing is something I insist on with all my fighters. In training, they must shadow box 3 rounds before they go on to the heavier work, either sparring, heavy bag, light bag. They must shadow box.
Really quick, this is one of those things that I've always suggested to people who are just starting out. Always shadow box before you start your main boxing workout, because not only does this get you warmed up, but it also puts you into a mental frame where you get thinking about boxing, right? It puts you into a state of mind where you start to visualize an opponent in front of you. So you move forward, you move back, you put yourself in a state of mind where you're already switching into that mode of, I'm going to be boxing now. So shadow boxing before your main workout, super helpful.
What Pink's doing right now, he's letting that jab go. A left jab, a fighter must have a jab. A fighter without a jab don't become a champion, don't become a good fighter. What he must do is stick. That's a ruler to me. Now, off of that jab, a guy can throw a good left hook. Stick and hook.
So everybody always asks, what's the most important punch in boxing? Well, for Angelo Dundee, it's a jab, right? And what does he say is the reason for that is because it's a ruler, right? It's a measuring tape. It helps you really gauge the other person's distance. It helps stifle their distance. The jab is a tool to set up all your other punches.
But all these things are impossible without footwork, because the guy's got to be in, out, come side to side, forward, back. Your legs take you there, the legs get you out of there. That's very important. The other thing is...
So people always talk about footwork. How do you train footwork? Why is it important? The most important reason why you want to have solid footwork is so that you can move in and out of range when you need to, right? If you're flat-footed the whole time, you're going to find it difficult to move in on an opponent or move out when they're pushing against you. Huge deal for Angelo and huge deal for boxing.
Now, the other big thing is this. Frank, show them what you're not supposed to do, lead with your face. Show them what you're not supposed to do. Any fighter fights like that is going to get himself destroyed.
One thing I like about Angelo Dundee is that he's a traditionalist in the sense that he doesn't like when fighters try things out that are a little bit unorthodox, like leaving your face out like this. Nowadays, we see a lot of fighters keep their hands really low and slip punches with their head and not keep their guard up, right? What I've always said is if you really want to be good at boxing, you should try out the fundamentals first and master them before you do anything crazy like keep your hands low and try to slip punches that way.
This is a heavy bag. They're made all different shapes, all different sizes. Some 40 pounds, 70, 80 pounds. The packing is usually a rubberized packing or something. They used to use sand in the old days. A lot of our fighters broke their hands because you don't bang on sand. You got to have your hands wrapped properly. You got to have bag gloves on so you don't hurt yourself.
A lot of people will suggest punching a heavier bag to, you know, increase your hand strength or your bone strength, the density of the calcium in your hands. Now, I personally do not find a hard, heavy bag better than a bag that has a little bit of give for this particular reason. Your hands are the most valuable things you have in boxing, and if you're constantly getting hand injuries, maybe it's because you're not wrapping your hands correctly or you're punching too hard of a surface. So super important. Somebody like Angelo Dundee knows the significance of having a bag that's not tightly packed with sand or whatever filling material you use, because the risk of injury is way too high.
Same thing a fighter does when he's shadow boxing, except he's hitting the heavy bag, moving around it. Now, if this bag moves you back, then a dummy's moving you back, and you're in all kinds of trouble. So what you got to do is pop on the back, move around, throw your left hooks, your right hands. The important thing hitting the heavy bag is not to bend your wrist. You got to lock your wrist. You got to be straight down. And the way I show my fighters, your wrist, your hand must be pointing down at all times when you throw a punch. If you throw a left hand like that, a jab. You throw a right hand, the wrist must be locked. It's got to be part of your arm. This way you don't bend your wrist, you don't hurt yourself, and it's the proper way to go.
This is one of those things that I always suggest, is that people start with hitting the bag softer than they're usually used to if they're just starting out, because they can get injured if they don't have the proper form, right? If you're just starting out, you more likely than not don't have perfect boxing form, and that means that every other punch you're going to land is not going to be done correctly, and your risk of injury is going to increase much more. So if you're a beginner, I suggest hit the bag maybe at 30-40% while you're still learning the fundamentals, so that way you can proactively prevent yourself from getting injured.
You need to move around this bag. Another thing you don't do, you don't hug this bag. You show me a guy that hugs a bag and I'll show you a grabber in a fight. You don't do those things.
Funny enough, because I always see people try out crazy weird things on heavy bags, especially at commercial gyms. They'll hug the bag, they'll slap the bag, they'll put their face on the bag, which is, by the way, that's super gross and disgusting. Bags are super dirty. You should always clean them before you even start hitting it because of this. What Angelo's getting at here is that you should always just hit the bag like you would do in your regular shadowboxing sessions. Move forward, move back, move around the bag, hit the bag, stick on it, throw some power shots, but you don't want to be doing anything weird. You don't want to be hugging the bag. You don't want to put your face on it. You're not dancing with the bag, right? You're not letting the bag hit you back, so don't block against the bag. The heavy bag is strictly for practicing your punches, your combinations, your footwork, things of that nature. So this is not an opponent. This is a heavy bag. This is the time to practice your boxing form.
Throw work's a very important facet in the boxing.
By the way, I like the retro training music. It's just a throwback to like the old days.
They've got to do row work because you need the legs. Without legs, you don't have a foundation. You need your legs. Now, some guys like to run. A lot of miles. That's insanity. I don't want a marathon runner. What I want is a fighter. I don't like my fighters to do more than 3 miles. That's enough, as long as your legs get tuned up, because that'll take you everywhere.
The significance of running, it can't be understated, but he also wants to say that you shouldn't be killing yourself doing road work. You shouldn't be doing 20 to 30 miles every session. You're gonna get injuries, you're gonna get fatigued. What you really want to be doing is train your legs, as Angelo said. You want to train for longevity in boxing, but you don't want to train to the point where you're fatiguing yourself. Like Angelo just said, you're training for a fight, not for a marathon.
Everybody has their own methods of training. I don't believe in anything unnatural. I don't believe in pumping iron. I believe in getting the fighter and utilizing what he has. I have a guy looks like a weightlifter but isn't a weightlifter. Come here, Michael. How you feeling after the workout?
I feel good. I feel real good.
I know you got me in trouble because you're built like a weightlifter, but you're not. Did you ever lift weights?
No, I didn't. I never lifted weights. I felt that I really didn't need them. I was blessed with my natural ability. I'm ready to I'm just gonna put it to use in my sport.
Well, just stay loose as a goose and you're going to make it. And by the way, you had a little bit of a thing happen to you.
So, important lesson, I think, for people to learn is that when you're training for boxing, you're not training necessarily your muscle strength. I mean, some people do like to supplement with some strength and conditioning. I've always said you should implement some level of strength training, right? If you're training for a fight, you also want to have a little bit of muscular build, right? Whether it's for strength or power. I personally believe it's just overall good for your general health to build some strength, right? Whether it's for the boxing ring or it's outside the boxing ring. Everybody should have a certain level of muscular build. It's a very interesting conversation that's to be had when it comes to strength and conditioning. There's ways to strength train without necessarily lifting weights, right? Like you can do calisthenics, you can do push-ups, pull-ups, and what have you, and you'll build some general strength. But if you're a hard gainer, right, if you're somebody who struggles to build muscle mass, I personally believe you should be implementing some level of weightlifting in your training exercises. Now, Angelo Dundee said something very interesting here. He said he doesn't believe in anything that's unnatural to the person's physique or to their build, right? He has people who've never lifted weights, but they look like bodybuilders, like that guy, right? But I will counter and say that if you don't have the ability to build muscle naturally like other people, you should implement some level of strength training, whether it's weightlifting or calisthenics. You need to be putting in that work to build more muscle. All right, so we're gonna cut it right there, guys. If you guys like this video, make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, drop a comment on what you wanna see next, and make sure you hit that like button. You guys know the drill. I don't have to tell you guys this. We're gonna keep coming at you with more of these kinds of videos, and thanks again for watching.